Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. We have a heavyweight battle coming up at the weekend between FABIO WARDLEY, undefeated in 18 fights with 17 KOs, 6'5" tall, 30 years old, from Ipswich, and he is fighting Justice Huni in Wardley's. This is in Wardley's backyard, Portman Road, Ipswich Town Football Club's stadium. Huni, 26 years old, so he's 4 years younger, from Australia, 6'4", so an inch shorter. It doesn't mean anything really. Undefeated in 12 with 7 KOs. And this is a substitute fight as far as football. Huni is a substitute for Jarrell Miller, who pulled out with a supposed shoulder injury. I don't know whether that's true or not, or whether he was going to fail another test. Or I don't really give a shit about Jarrell Miller, to be honest with you. Fuck him. He should have been kicked out of boxing a long, long time ago. He hasn't been. He'll continue to make lots of money. So whether he's lying or not, as far as I'm concerned, he's a barefaced liar anyway. I wouldn't believe a bloody word he says. So out he goes, and in comes Justice Huni. And I actually, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I actually prefer this fight to the Miller fight, because I know a lot of people were looking forward to Miller and Wardley. I think that was a difficult fight for Wardley, because Miller, a lot of mass, good pressure fighter, very good chin. I think that over 12 rounds he'd have tested Wardley, probably beating him, but he would have stood a very good chance of beating him. I would have made Miller a favourite in that fight. A lot of people disagree, but on the other hand, now that Huni's come in, I make Wardley a very big favourite over Justice Huni. And why is that? Well, let me explain. Wardley has the draw on his record with Fraser Clark, the much bigger Fraser Clark, big phrase. And that goes back to March of 2024, where they had a 12-round split draw. Fraser was undefeated at the time. That was the British and Commonwealth titles. I think Fraser was 25 pounds heavier or something. It's like 268 or something like that, 266 maybe. He was on the floor, I think in the 5th round, but got up to go the distance. Then in the rematch, Fabio caught him early, very early, stopped him in 2.5 minutes in the 1st round, put a dent in him. Broke his skull, as he rightly put it, because I don't know what the injury was. Was it the cheekbone? I don't think it was the eye socket. It might have been the cheekbone. Anyway, he just blasted Fraser out of there. We've got that. There was that disturbing scene of Fraser with his jaw at a diagonal angle and hanging on at the top rope, clearly not knowing where he was. Fraser's come back with a half decent win. Oddly enough, ironically enough, a 1-rounder against Ebenezer Tete. But clearly, Fabio put that little rivalry to bed, at least for the foreseeable future. And now he's taking on another undefeated fighter, which is Huni. And I think if you look at Wardley, he blew away David Adelaide, who is actually British heavyweight champ. He won that title controversially over Jamie TKV Severa, I think the guy's real name is, Jamie Severa. Punch after the bell, a lot of controversy there, so they're going to have a rematch. But Adelaide did pick up the British title, so that's a decent win. Wardley beat Adelaide when he was undefeated, stopped him in 7. And if you look back to some of his previous opponents, they've been British level. Would you call Eric Molina fringe level at the point where he got done in 5 by Wardley? I don't know. Would you call Nathan Gorman British level? Well, he was British level, because when he fought Wardley, he got stopped in 3, but that was for the vacant British title. But the things I mentioned, Molina and Nathan Gorman, because they both had a little bit of success against Fabio Wardley. They both shook him. They both rattled him a little bit early on. I can't remember the round. Was it the 2nd round, 3rd round, when Eric Molina seemed to sort of momentarily stun Fabio, and then Fabio exploded into life and stopped Molina in 5. Molina was picking up paychecks by that point. He was not interested in digging down deep and fighting. And in fact, Eddie Hearn said after that fight, I'm not giving Eric Molina any more paychecks, because he just quits too easy. Okay, fair enough. But then if you go back to 2022, fast forward, I should say, from 21 to 22, when he fought Nathan Gorman. Gorman was having good boxing success and landed some decent shots against Wardley, and he shook him. And Wardley just banged his gloves together, gritted his teeth, and then exploded. And with Wardley, there is this spite, this nastiness about him. He definitely, it's like a switch gets flicked, and suddenly he's on it. And he did not have. Did he have any amateur fights, or was he purely from a sort of white collar background? I don't think he had any real fights. I know he's managed by Dillian White, and he was kind of discovered, if you like, by Dillian White, and he's not afraid of those gym wars that White likes to have, and that's how he ended up on White's undercards, and White manages him, and so on. I mean, I think Wardley would knock White out now, because I think White's way past his best, and his punch resistance is pretty much shot to bits. But he deserves credit for bringing Wardley in, giving him an opportunity, which Wardley has definitely taken with both hands and then some. He's now with Queensberry, having been on many matchroom cards, or several matchroom cards previously. And he has that nastiness about him. He's an orthodox fighter, very aggressive, can be hit. You can see there are limitations in the schooling, if you like, technical limitations. But I don't think he's that bad. I think in 19 professional fights, I think has he overachieved, or is he simply a very talented guy who started late? It's difficult to say, but I'll tell you what he is. Regardless of boxing, he's a natural fighter. He's got a fighter's instincts, very much so, because he just springs into action. Because when he's hit, his immediate reaction is not to go, not to worry about being hit, not to worry about the next punch coming at him. It's to punch back. And I think can you really teach that? Can it become second nature? Repetition, practice, maybe. But I think he has that natural fighter's mentality, fighter's instincts. And if I'm being honest, I don't see that in Justice Huni. I really don't. I see Justice Huni, unbeaten in 12, like I said, being a far better schooled fighter, far better in terms of textbook conventional boxing. You can, someone who looks like he's started far earlier than, say, Wardley. But whereas Wardley has that sort of almost like a refined caveman appearance, attitude, with Huni, he has far more technical nous, but doesn't seem to have that nastiness about him. Boxing looks to him like it is a sport, not a fight, not fighting. It's a sport. And I know that people have talked about this fight quite extensively in the past, but he was given a lot to think of. I think that was about March last year when he fought Kevin Lorena. Because Lorena, who is really a cruiserweight, I think he might be campaigning at Bridgerweight, or he held a Bridgerweight title, does hold a Bridgerweight title. But let's put it this way, he's a very small heavyweight. He's not really a heavyweight. He gave Huni a lot to think about, and he ended up being outpointed over 10. But even though I don't really have a problem with too much of a problem with the decision, 96-94 on 2 cards, I think was all right. I think one of the judges had it wider, which I didn't agree with. And I think you could probably have made a case for Lorena winning that fight. Nevertheless, I thought Huni probably edged it, but against a guy who was done in 3 by Daniel Dubois and really isn't the biggest of opponents for someone of the size of Lorena, who is, again, 6'4", I think he is. Probably weighs around the 240, 245 mark. I thought it was a belabored performance, really. I mean, Huni does have a win over Andrew Tabiti as well. That's a 10-round unanimous decision. Tabiti's a very good cruiserweight. That was over in Mexico, of all places. Look, here's my thing. I mean, I don't think Justice Huni is a bad fighter. I think he's a good fighter. He's got a very conventional style. He's 26, so he's young for heavyweight. He's a decent size, but I honestly think Fabio Wardley's nastiness and just that natural fighting instinct is going to result in Wardley stopping Huni. And if I'm being really honest, it wouldn't surprise me if it was quite early, like round 3, something like that. So I'm thinking Huni will start. He'll try to box. He might be outboxing Wardley for a couple of rounds. He might even cut Wardley. Wardley has some scar tissue on the bridge of his nose, which sometimes opens up. He couldn't care less about that. He just gets on with it. But I think the worst thing you can do with Wardley is really, when he sees blood, he doesn't capitulate. He sort of flares up. And I really think that I can see Wardley over 12. This is 12, by the way, not 10 rounds. I see Wardley managing to grind down Huni. And I mean, okay, like I say, it could even end early, but I'll go with a Wardley win in 5 rounds, 3, 4, 5, that sort of thing. And it is not because he is a superior boxer to Huni. He isn't. It's just that I think Huni, when it comes to a man of Wardley's size, who's 6'5", 240, and most importantly, of all of his natural fighting instincts, I don't think Huni's faced anyone like Wardley. I think technically he's probably better, but I think Wardley will get through that and get to him and then hit him hard and hurt him. And I think Huni's going to be in for a shock when he gets hit. So I see this as being a stoppage win for Wardley. I don't know, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, that sort of thing. Before we get to the middle rounds anyway. Within 5, let's say that within 5. What do you think? I know some of you Aussies ain't going to be happy with this prediction. But I can only say what I feel. I could be wrong, of course. My predictions are not great a lot of the time. But let me know. Let me know what you think. Do you disagree? If you do disagree and you think Huni's going to get it, let me know why. Tell me why. What do you base that view on? And yeah, I look forward to reading what you've got to say. Thanks very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All right. Thanks very much. Bye for now.